White Labs, a full-service marketing agency. Today's guest is Allison. Allison, feel free to introduce yourself and let our viewers know about your background.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Margolin. I'm a criminal defense attorney. That's my day job, and I'm also an author. And I write about legal issues ranging from drug decriminalization to the politics of like the marijuana movement. Those are some of my areas. And I defend people from like everything from marijuana to murder. And I've been an attorney for 22 years this December.
Amazing. What inspired you to become an attorney?
Well, my parents were both they're both our attorneys. They were criminal defense attorneys both when I was born, and my dad stayed a criminal defense lawyer. My mom ended up, switching to family law, but they both really enjoyed what they did, so I found it inspiring. And when I was young, I also became, aware of the issues that were still ongoing with the war on drugs, and I felt a calling to deal with them.
Awesome. You still have a practice now, a firm now?
I do. I practice criminal defense. I'm doing like almost exclusively criminal defense and appellate criminal, but I still have a couple little municipal law matters that I'm handling, but it's almost all criminal defense.
Awesome. Who's your ideal target audience?
My target audience, so my
For
niche
your firm and the book.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, like, I would say my target audience are people who are Hmong, because that's like my niche is. So like I practice all over the state of California. Here in Los Angeles, I'm actually pretty good friends with the DA, and he's very progressive. And so I have some cases, but I have 30% of my business is here. And the rest of my business is between Manteca and Siskiyou County.
Okay.
But in Siskiyou County, that's like where I have most of my practice. I represented the community leader of the Hmong on a criminal case, and then I ended up doing a civil rights case where the county had, based on what we believe was discriminatory purposes, had basically truncated the water rights of people who are Asian Americans there. And then from that case, which we ended up succeeding in, that kind of revitalized my criminal practice. So most of my clients are up there, and that's like 60% of my practice are Hmong. They're from Minnesota, Fresno, came to Siskiyou County. So that's kind of like my target audience, I would say, and their friends are kind of what I mostly represent right now.
Amazing. So you are in a very competitive space. What makes you better than your competitors?
I don't really know what my competitors do or don't do, but I know that I try everything possible that I think has even a remote chance of succeeding for my clients, including doing writs and appeals. When I think it's necessary, even if I have to do them for free, which I do oftentimes, the writs. And somehow through like trying all these various things, I oftentimes make pretty magical things happen. I don't really, I haven't been a criminal client of any of my competitors, so I don't really know what they do or don't do. But I know what I do. So that's been kind of my, I've had a lot of, amazing, I think, results. And I don't even know how sometimes, except that I definitely can see the outcome I want. And I try pretty much everything to get to it. And I think that I'm a lot of times underestimated, which is, I still find like kind of amusing. And it's like, since I've been a lawyer and out of law school, I'm a Harvard Law graduate. And before I graduated law school, I felt like the way I was seen was as like an intellectual, mostly my whole life because I was a good student. So when I became a lawyer, I think that a lot of people who have different personalities in and outside the courtroom, like in the courtroom, there are certain, I guess you might say, version of professionalism, and outside they're, let's say, different. And I'm pretty much, I would say, pretty similar in and outside the courtroom. So I think that makes me relatable to juries. And it also, I've learned that my opponents oftentimes underestimate me because they take my humanity for possibly weakness, or they underestimate, I think, my intelligence. So that's something that I don't really capitalize on it, but I think it's worked to my benefit. So those are, I consider that's what I offer. So I can create magical situations that are, pretty awesome, and I try everything. And I think the client also feels validated by our experience together. First of all, we do get good results, but I treat people like, I do think like everyone's the same. I don't talk down to people. I don't criticize them or judge them. So I think that like the experience of my representation also, empowers people and makes them feel good about themselves, which has a positive effect. And it's probably something that one may or may not recognize, there's why they might like my representation, but I think that's part of it too.
No, 100%. I totally get it. What's your future plan for yourself and the firm?
Well, the firm, I hope to keep, I'd like to get this position in Siskiyou County actually on the indigent panel, which is where I would like work there doing, it's like the alternate public defender panel. And I could do that like at least 1 week a month. My like professional, I'd like to have like more steady income is like on a real specific level. Like I have some appellate work I'm doing for the county, and then I want to do this work at Siskiyou. So like having more steadiness and not just feast or famine, which is always kind of like how it is in criminal, but setting up things where I have more, revenue coming in that's kind of like assured, would be good. And developing more in Siskiyou County, and then I have a couple pretty serious federal cases, one involving a fentanyl um, person who sold fentanyl unknowingly and a Marine ended up dying. So I'm like, that kind of case with that specific defendant, I enjoy. The kind of new era is going to be these ketamine defenses, and I'm very close to that issue personally, because one of my family members is like a pretty bad ketamine addict currently, and uh, and and became one at rehab. So, if that wasn't the case, I probably would be saying like, oh, I'd love to represent a ketamine doctor right now, a doctor charged with like one of these ketamine cases, like Matthew Perry, or like an assistant or the drug dealer. Um, and not to say I still don't think those people should be prosecuted criminally, but I don't really want to represent anybody like that right now. So I don't know. I have to see. And then my other ambition is I'd like to get my book. Like I need to make some money from my book that I wrote so that I can like write a second book and get an amount of an advance that I can actually like live off of, so that I could then devote 6 months to writing my second book, which I already started to outline. But I really need to get my first one making money so I can like contribute time to like writing the second one. So it's kind of, but the Siskiyou County world is kind of where I'm at. And then we'll see what happens with the LA district attorney election. My friend is running for re-election. The numbers, he's the incumbent, but then I don't know what's going to happen. He seems pretty confident, George Gascon, but the polling is not great. But why that's relevant to my career is that if he doesn't get elected, I want to see what he does. Maybe, like one of my dreams would be to work with him on policy. So like fantasy world, like if George Gascon doesn't get reelected DA, him and I can like do some kind of like policy nonprofit, work on like, basically what are the federal legal issues that are like getting in the way of like people being able to stop being drug addicts and that kind of stuff, and policy issues with people who are violent offenders, all sorts of cool stuff. So I'd like to do more policy, have a bigger presence even in Siskiyou County, and have like more steady sources of revenues. Those are kind of my
100%. I totally get it. What have you done to promote yourself and the book? What's been the most successful way marketing wise to promote yourself as a lawyer and the book?
Well, here's the thing that's kind of like, I don't know, maybe this means I have potential. So the last couple of years, so the book came out like August of 2022, and I've barely done anything to promote the book or myself since then, because so my practice I have now is like based on referrals. So like I definitely like, I don't even know. My sister has a book out that like, but she's like she has like a successful book out, and it's on psychedelics in the religious Jewish world. That's like her beat. It's called Exile and Ecstasy. But her book, like her publisher sent her on this like worldwide tour. I haven't done anything I haven't gotten any money beyond my advance yet. So I have to figure out like what to do to promote it. Just that like I had, stuff going on. I had an arbitration with my former law partner to kind of, and then I've had like, to kind of resuscitate my practice. So I haven't done much to promote myself the last couple of years, but I have had some like pretty awesome results in the last couple of years, like 2 years. So those kind of, I think, have led to my fortunate ability to retain a practice. So like last year, I settled the case, Lowell versus County of Siskiyou, which involved the Asian American discrimination, and we won. We got a settlement from the county, and that way we won. And so that, I think, spoke to my abilities. And then I've done some pretty awesome like appellate practice this year with bail issues. Like I got this one guy who's also Hmong in Siskiyou County out on an ankle bracelet when he was previously in on like no bail, like as if like no bail, like capital murder type like in California, no bail is supposed to be reserved for capital murder. He was charged with a pretty serious offense, so domestic violence, um, witness intimidation, false imprisonment. But I was able to get him out on an ankle bracelet. And so like it's been kind of like through my, I think, work successes, which is like pretty awesome because, it's in the beginning of my practice, like I had to advertise like in the beginning of my practice, the way I like got known was I had these kind of irreverent advertisements in the local kind of like trashy newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me kind of attention. And it was like, I said, like Harvard Law grad, want to smoke pot on probation. That was like in the way beginning. And then that got me attention of like the Daily Journal, like the legal newspaper in California and the LA Times. And then that kind of promoted me. But fortunately, the last couple of years, my work, like since I'm in like a small county, I'm in a county, it's actually very big geographically, but only 40,000 people. And I think it's like about 36,000 square acres. So I think, things kind of came together in that, but I haven't really done much promotion outside of just, not too much the last couple of years, but I would like to figure out if I could be on more podcasts about my book, it's called Just Dope. I'd like to be on like Sirius Radio about it. I don't know. I haven't really figured it out quite yet.
Gotcha. Well, is there anything I haven't asked you that you would want our listeners to know about yourself and the book and the practice?
Well, I think like people seem to enjoy the book. It's like my memoirs. It's about like my own experience with drugs, my own experience like growing up in the cannabis legalization movement. And then it gets into the politics of like marijuana doctors. I encourage people to buy my book, but my dad and my sister also have books out that you could read together. My dad has a book out. They're all on Amazon. My dad's is called Down for the Cause and is self-published, and it's about his career, which is much more interesting actually than mine. I recommend people buy that first. But he was like one of the first lawyers to advocate for legalization of marijuana, which was in 1966, and started that movement, and ended up going to India and meeting this guru, and became good friends with Baba Ramdas, who's Richard Alpert, who wrote a book, Be Here Now. And my dad ultimately represented Timothy Leary on his escape trial. So his book is all about that. And my sister wrote one, and I don't know, I think I encourage you to get mine, and of course my sister's and my dad's. And if you're interested in kind of reading about, 1950s through modern day, like what's happening in the collective unconscious and the world of drugs and the world of politics, doctors. And I take cases all over the country. And if anybody ever needs me, I don't represent informants, so that's why I only do 1 to 2 federal cases at a time, because most of the times people end up having to become informants. But yeah, I'm happy to take cases anywhere, and I encourage you to get my book, and my family's also.
Awesome, Allison. Well, I appreciate you coming on the Wytpod and sharing your story, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you interviewing me. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.